Come on. And we are live.
We're live.
A day late, but we made it. The infinitely patient Christina Glover is here today after getting stood up yesterday. How are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, and that is the only time anyone has ever called me infinitely patient in my entire life.
Well, no one really listens to me, so don't get too excited. Um,
Just don't say it too loud. Just don't say it too loud.
so you have a book that would have won SPFNO, but it didn't get selected.
I did. I am a SPFNO. I did not make it in.
And what
It,
is that book that would have won?
so this is The Switchboard is the first book in my urban fantasy trilogy, and it's a story of what happens when the magical device that connects to the mages that use it in our world gets torn apart, and the immortal chief operator that runs it has to recruit a very exasperated, very done with this nonsense mortal mage to help him fix it and save the magic.
Okay. And I actually did a little bit of research for your book, so you should feel proud.
Thank you.
Your main character is Henry Yu, is that correct?
Henley. But yes.
Henley. Okay. I can't spell. But okay, Bo says he loves that cover.
Thank you.
Let's
My
see.
artist is very good and I love her very much.
So we were talking before we came on live, and you only have one book out. However, how many books have you written?
I have just finished number 11.
Wow.
Yes, The Switchboard is my 8th novel.
So are you having a release every month now for the next year?
Some of these books do not need to see the light of day.
I don't know. 12 Ghosts would disagree.
Hi, 12. Yeah, so the first book I ever wrote, I wrote in middle school, and it's a very fond memory for me. It's a garbage book. It's like the most self-insert nonsense. It was handwritten in spiral notebooks, but the most important thing about that was my wife. We went to school together, following me through the hallway, saying, "Did you write more? Did you write more?" And it's probably all her fault. All these books are probably her fault from that point on.
It's important to have someone you can scapegoat. I've learned that.
Yes.
I
And she's more of a scapegoat than most, because some of these characters, like there's a character named Renee in these books, is entirely her fault. It's entirely her fault.
So let me ask you, well, your characters, are they based off of people you knew? Do they have names of people you know? Have you killed an old boss that you didn't like?
I have very rarely made characters off of people that I know. Probably the biggest example of someone that really kind of fits that mold is in the first chapter. The first chapter was completely rewritten long after the book was done. And there's a character named Charlie. And 12's is one of my roommates, and that's her uncle for sure. Like, as close as I could get him, but it's more of, I need this person, but I can't get the details in my head. How do I make this work? And then you just latch on to a real experience. Yeah.
No. Well, 12 agrees with you. Spot on. So I made the mistake when I put one person who was helping me, I put him in the book, and I wrote some more, and he read, he goes, I would never do this. You have to change it.
Doesn't work.
And I was like, okay, here's a new set of rules. You can be in the book, but you're probably going to die and you'll last a chapter.
Yes.
So there. And he's like, but I want to be the hero of the big fight. I'm like, you're not the main character. You will not be the hero.
Not going to work.
And he's like, but why? I'm like, because only one person on this planet would want to read it, and that's you. And I want to sell more than one book.
Yes. This is not for you.
So you have 11 books now you've written. This series is a trilogy, correct?
Yes, it's a trilogy with a prequel currently written.
So what are all the other books? Are they in the same universe? Have you gone far and wide and created many worlds?
No, it's one world divided into three planes. So our world is the actuality, which is where the mortal people live, where normal mages, people have day jobs and computers and cell phones and normal stuff, but a small portion of the population can do magic. And then you have the ethereal, which is where the elementals are. It's where all the magic, the energy comes from. It's not magic over there, it's just energy. And there's a barrier world between them. It's called the between. And in order for the ethereals to get to the mortals and get payment for their energy, they have to go through the switchboard. And it's kind of like a riff off the Devil at the Crossroads.
Mm-hmm.
It's the between exists to protect the mortals from the ethereals. So the trilogy goes through one storyline for the two main characters, and the prequel is just set up for some of the side characters.
Nice. I love that you're giving the side characters their own little time in the sun.
They're very noisy. They're extremely noisy.
So I have to ask, because it always happens to me that I would plan out like, this is what has to happen this chapter, and I start writing, and one of my characters would be like, no, I would never do that.
Yeah.
So do you tell your characters what to do, or do they tell you what they're going to do and you just have to figure it out?
I try very hard to tell my characters what to do. I'm not a plotter, but I'm a plancer. I'm kind of in the middle. I usually have a rough outline of what I think is going to happen, and I don't box myself in, because I find if I try to force a character to do something after they have started to develop their voice, well, the orders that were given were based off of the battle plan from 3 months ago. The situation has changed. You have to update your plan. So I try not to do that too often, but every once in a while they just go off the rails.
Yeah. I like to know when I'm writing a chapter or even the book, I'm like, where do I need to end? Where is my end point for this chapter? And I'm like, I see a path there, but I bet you I'm not going to take that straight and narrow path. I bet someone's going to run off to the side, and we'll have to see what's over there.
Yeah.
So
it's better that way, though.
Yeah. I used to plot all the time, and then I would deviate, and then I'd have to stop and replot, and then I'd deviate. So now I'm like, you know what? Just give me the end point. Maybe one or two things that have to happen, and then we'll figure it out from there as we muddle our way through.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know how you could write any other way. Roe, he's not here, so we can talk dirty about him. That's great. But he is more of a pantser, and nothing scares me more than why? What, you don't know how it ends. You could write yourself into so many corners.
I used to be a pantser. I used to be a person who rode at the seat of their pants and just said, okay, let's just go. And I found that I would get very frustrated in the middle of the book because then I ran out of steam. I had some really great ideas, and then I lost track of where I was going with this plan. And I know where my end point is, but now there is absolutely no way to get from the middle point to the end. I have completely boxed myself in.
I did just as a writing exercise. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to be a pantser. I'm just going to sit down. I'm like, you know what? That is great for a short story.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it ends before you can get yourself too trapped in a corner.
Yeah.
So I do like it for that. And I probably, now that I've got the 2 books out this year, I might, play around and do something for fun instead of, hurrying up to get another book that I have to spend a lot of money on to get published.
Yeah. I'm tired of being under a timeline. I'm ready to have a break and just be able to free write for a while.
So the book I'm writing, I'm hoping to have for SPFNO next year, but if it's not ready, okay, what are the odds I'm going to get it anyway? I'm not going to kill myself to give myself a 40% chance.
Yeah. What's the cutoff?
May sometime, usually. I don't know when in May.
So it's an annual. Okay.
Yeah.
And have you heard if they said that the SPFNOs are allowed to re-enter?
I'm sure you can.
I hope so.
But there are just shy of 600 people this year who signed up, and half got in. So, I'm assuming it'll probably be closer to 800 next year.
Unless this was everybody stored up their books and just it was an explosion, and then we see, a kind of a falling off of the path there, and maybe it'll be a little bit big next year, but hopefully not as big. We'll see.
Well, I was in SPFNO 9, so last year's, and that filled up in 41 minutes.
Jesus.
Which is why they said they're going to open it for 24 hours so everyone can apply, and then they'll, it's the fairest way is a random draw. I mean,
Yeah.
people were complaining about it. It's like, but you can't be more fair than a random draw.
I mean, statistically, what did you want them to do? You have a choice. Either they make people mad because they had a very short window that filled up, or you do a lottery. That's, people should just be grateful that the contest exists. I'm sorry, but don't be mad at the people doing their best.
And Timothy, yes, we all agree with this. I'm sure they agree too. I'm curious, like next year, what if you have two different series? You have book one in both series. What would stop you from, putting both in and, oh, you're only allowed to have one? Okay, well, I'll pick which one I want. I mean, we could have, it's going to get bigger, and I mean, that's a good thing, but it's a bad thing too. Yeah. But I mean, it raises all the tide, and that raises all boats. So,
I would be curious to see if they would change the culling process, like maybe expand the entry and then find ways to cull before the books went to the panels. But then I also absolutely hate it when people just read the first few pages of my book, because like my first couple chapters are a little bit on the slower side, and like please read to chapter 3. If you're going to try it, read to chapter 3, because the first 5 pages are not going to get you very far. So, and Charles, I agree with you. I'm just happy that people are writing. I think it's really nice.
Yeah, I don't know, because I went to several workshops, and the person would read your book and they're like, you know what, let me read the first page, and from there I can tell you your writing, if it's good or bad. It's like, I'm not expecting to, be, oh my God, what happened? It's just the writing, the quality of writing. I mean, I think you can tell that really quickly. If you don't believe me, read the first page of 50 Shades of Grey. I did that in a class once. I'm like, this is horrible. And they're like, it's 50 Shades of Grey. I'm like, okay, well, I've read one page, and that's one more than I ever wanted to. But, but I mean, you can tell truly terrible writing in one page. But I mean, you can't tell how complex the story is. I mean, BBNY, I think they read the first 2,000 words or something, and then that's the first culling point. And if they like it, they'll go to 10,000. If they like it, then they'll read the whole book.
Yeah.
But I mean, anything you do, there's problems. I mean, people don't have infinite time to read books.
Yeah. And
not everyone is, Esme or Jonathan, who can read, book in 2 hours.
God, Esme's gotten through her stuff so fast. She was my first ever review, and she was the kindest human being, but that wasn't just my first review. She wrote like 8 paragraphs. It's massive. Yeah. The review is enormous, and it just blew me out of the water. I don't know how she has the time in the day.
According to EL, 5 pages is a standard for slush piles.
Yeah. 5 pages is scary, especially if you're writing fantasy. Fantasy takes a lot of setup sometimes. So I think 5 pages is terrifying for a fantasy author.
They could make it regional and then a playoff. But how do you group?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's only good. It raises awareness. So, and you got to be on this wonderful interview because you weren't in.
Yes.
And we all know
the community response to the SPFNOs has been really just so welcoming, and I'm very grateful for it. That's been very helpful.
And, I will say this year, since I'm not in it, I watch, SPFBO, and I like the updates. I'm like, oh, okay. So this, we have a semifinals. Last year, I was a ball of nerves. I'm like, oh my God, is today the day?
Yes. Am I going to get called? Yes.
And then the one day when I was like, oh, hopefully they kick some people out so that, the rest of us can do well. Let me go see. And I looked, and my group said their first 5 cuts. And I'm like, all right, getting rid of 5 people in my group. And they did alphabetical, and my book was Becoming a Druid. So B was alphabetically first. I'm like, and I'm the first one out.
That's not a great day. That's not a great day.
Oh, but I mean, it SPFBO is so good for me. Rogue convinced me to start this YouTube channel. I got onto Twitter because of it. I met all kinds of people. Yeah, I would never have talked with one Timothy Wolf had I not been, in SPFBO last year, or E.L. Montague. So many people. So yeah, it's. I'm not a fan of BBNY because they do next to nothing. Like,
Yeah.
okay, send us your money, and then in a couple months we'll say, okay, semifinals. We're not going to in any way, talk you up
Yeah.
between now and then. But so I don't know. I did that last year. I don't know that I'll do it again. But SPFBO and now Spacebo. Which cat is this?
First official cat. We had a cat when I was in the waiting room, but this is first official cat. This is Koji. Koji has made his appearance and he is done. He's done.
And how many cats do you have? Or
we are currently up to 5, which is too many cats.
I was going to say, are they okay with that, having only 2 people to take care of them?
Oh, there's 3 of us in the house.
3, well, still 3 of you, but there's 5 of them. They should each get at least 1.
It's rough. And we range from 19 years old down to 3 months old.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we have a pretty wide range. Koji's a year. And then we have the twins that are about 3 months old. But we have the venerable Prince Jonathan Ashford, the first of his name, who is the oldest at 19. And he's tolerating the young kids.
Well, that's about the best you can hope for.
Yeah. They get along, and then okay, that's it. As long as y'all aren't fighting in the middle of the night when I'm trying to sleep, we're okay.
So we're going to actually talk about your book. So how did Henley meet Kittinger, or Kit?
He finds Kit in his kitchen cabinets.
In his kitchen cabinet? Okay.
Yes. So Kit is the chief operator of the switchboard, and he goes on the run when the switchboard gets down. And he basically rips a hole in the world and flings himself into the mortal world and hides in the first place that he finds, which is Henley's kitchen cabinet. And yeah, Henley comes home in a rainstorm, and there's dishes rattling, and he's like, oh no. But he's got his umbrella and he's stabbing in the cabinet. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I think it's time for a silly question.
Oh, sweet. Let's go.
Okay. 9. Let's see. If you could have any superpower specifically geared towards your writing for one day, what would it be and how would you use it?
So my normal quick answer is flight, because I would kill to be Superman. I'd love to fly. I just think that would be the most amazing thing ever. But I'm going to say the ability to teleport anywhere I wanted.
Nice.
So that I could see environments. And that wouldn't help me as much with this book. Time travel would help me more with this book, because the Between is set in the 1920s, because it refreshes itself every once in a great while, but it hasn't refreshed itself since the 1920s. But just being able to go to a different location to stare at it and be like, man, I can't get my head around how the shadows would fall. I don't know what the traffic would sound like, that would be a really good power.
So where in it, I mean, it's urban fantasy, right? So it's based on, so what city is it in, or cities?
I'm very proud to say that the switchboard, the mortal world, is in Houston, which is my hometown. That's actually the reason that this book was written, was because I got very frustrated with all these authors writing books in New York and Los Angeles. And I was like, what about Houston? We have an amazing city.
The 4th largest city in the country. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty dramatic here. I mean, we are a heavy impact on the world. So the Between is more like, I actually use Chicago's Central train station for one of my locations, but it's sort of every city in that time period combined, sort of a mishmash. Yeah.
Finger red number 1. Does this mean something to you?
It's probably an emote that doesn't translate into the stream deck.
So, are all 11 of your books that you've written, and I'm still trying to get a handle on that, are they all urban fantasy, or have you written other genres as well?
Two of them are urban fantasy. So out of the 11, four of them are for this series.
Hmm.
Two of them are urban fantasy. Well, yeah, two of them are urban fantasy that are not part of this series. And then some of them, three of them are actually high fantasy.
Nice.
And I will go back to that series and I will finish it. It is my baby, but I had some really horrible critique on the first book. I had somebody who did not have very good, I don't want to say intentions, but didn't show any care in their critique and
Mm.
said some really awful things about my characters. And
Ooh.
I shredded that book, decided to try to rewrite it 2 times, did not succeed. I will do it eventually. And then I got mad and time jumped 500 years in the future in that same world. And that series was successful. So that'll be, once I finish this series, I'll go back to that one.
So, do you plan on all your series writing the entire series before you start publishing, or
Absolutely not.
I was
That
going to
was
say,
not the plan.
I was like, that sounds like Nirvana to me, but I will never do
Yeah.
that because I can't sit on. I'm like, I'm done now. Start selling.
So do you know of Michael J. Sullivan?
I know the name. I've not read anything by him.
Okay, if you have not read his books, you really need to. He's a really fantastic writer.
Hmm.
And not only is he a really fantastic fantasy writer, he's an excellent craftsman. And he has said the most amazing things. I've learned so much from him. And he writes his series first.
Yep.
Yeah, and 12 says NaNoWriMo is to blame. Yes, for everything. But so, we call him Sully in the house because we've been following him for a very long time. We've been in contact with him a few times. And he, like his original, The Ray Revelations, which is his main original series, he wrote all 6 books before he released anything. And I cannot do that. Yeah.
Nope. I have to hurry and rush mine out so that people can ignore them. Um,
Yeah. I finished, so the Switchboard was my 2019 NaNoWriMo project. And I did the Switchboard, and then I did The Mage Killer, which is book 2. And then I did the prequel, Flawless. And then last year I did The Lineman, which is book 3. And it's just sheer chance that I had finished them all. And the only reason is because I decided to query the Switchboard for a year and a half.
oh,
And once I got mad, I said, why am I waiting on the query process when you query to get an agent to then wait again
yeah.
and hope you're lucky? And it's just agents are not super excited about series either. So I said, let's go. We're doing it.
You know, you have much more resolve than me. I queried 3 people and I was like, this is exhausting. And I'm like, and again, if they like it, then they'll want you to edit it to see in their vision what they think will sell. And then you have to wait a year to get, and then the editors will tell you, change it again to this is what we think you need. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I just want to tell my story.
Yes. Like, okay, commercial success would be nice. It would be cool to have my book in Barnes and Noble because somebody else put it there. I didn't have to make a phone call. Somebody else made that decision, you know.
Yeah.
That would be nice. And maybe with the next first book of a series, I'll try again. But I'm not worried about it because, like, I was able to produce this really cool looking book with this really awesome cover, and I got slipcover, and I've got a hard case, and these are all things that are real book stuff, you know. And I did it in Canva.
Yep. I mean,
Canva Pro subscription, $10 a month, worth it.
I think indie books, by and large, blow the traditional ones out of the water when you talk about cover design and in the extras, the sprayed edges, because they're not doing that for the no way but the big names. I mean,
Yeah.
it you get such a nice the packaging all around is better, and hopefully the writing is. I'll throw it out 'cause I actually love this book. Oh, I loved EL's book. I had to say that because he's in the stream. But the book I'm going to brag about now is The Sunset Sovereign by Laura Huey.
Okay.
Absolutely love the book. It's one of my 2 favorite books of the year. It's a dragon's memoir. Think of it as Bilbo when he goes in and sees Smaug, and Smaug's like, you know what? I'll leave and give you everything here if you just let me tell you my story first.
Nice.
And I mean, I'm like, you would never find that in traditional publishing.
I'll look it up. I got a
So,
sticky note.
yeah, I mean, it's like 5 hours if you could do the audiobook. It's like, 200 pages maybe or something. It's short, but I mean, loved it.
I've seen some incredible covers lately, like Hell for Hire. It's on my list, if not for no other reason, just because the book cover looks amazing. Mushroom Blues.
Yeah.
I've got to read that book. It looks so cool.
We interviewed Adrian, and he took one of his paperbacks and he put mushroom spores in between the pages, and then got it to them to grow, and now the entire book is covered in mushrooms, and he'll like take a bite during interviews
Oh,
on
that's
camera.
amazing.
And
That's
it's
how
like,
you do your brand right there.
I mean, you can see the spine and you can just see the title on the front page, but like all the pages, the mushrooms have gone all around, and all the pages are all, frozen to get. You can't open the book, and I mean, he's like, yeah, and these are, and he'll take a bite, and I'm like, that is a genius marketer right there.
That is so smart, and his cover is just looks so professional, and the design of it is so interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I'm not like when we were doing the cover for the switchboard and we were looking at fonts, the author name font is called Sinzil. And I had pulled up a whole bunch of different examples from other fantasy books that I wanted to use as my kind of guide. This is what I like, this is what I don't like. And one of those books had the exact same font as their main title. That's Canva. What am I paying for? If I could do this in Canva, why am I getting really worried about the graphic design,
So and it's more just because I was so tickled that I could do it. I actually get a custom font made for each series.
Really?
Yeah. You can do it on Fiverr. I think it's $80 to $100. It depending on what you want. I have regular, bold, italics, condensed. So I have Grommy font for the Druid books. I have Haley font for my sci-fi, and now I have Dwarven font for the series I'm writing now. And I'm getting my own custom font. That way I can, on the back cover, I mean, that's Haley font.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you won't want to do the whole book in that, but you can put the back cover.
Yeah.
People tolerate that much.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm just tickled pink. I'm like, I have 3 custom fonts that I've had made, and I'm like,
that is cool. Okay, 12s, take notes. We need to investigate that because that's really cool.
Well,
I love that.
I'll tell you the woman who does it for me. She's from Morocco. She's phenomenal. So highly recommend her. If you want her, I'll give you the link to her Fiverr site.
Please do, because that sounds really cool.
And it's fun that way. You if you decide you want to change something, you're like, you know what? I just have to type it in. I have the font.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have control.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, like, if you notice the graphic for the show tonight, that's in Grommy font.
Okay.
Because, I didn't tell Ro. I was like, yes, I'm using my font because that's called branding. If people see that font, they'll sooner or later, think of me. I'm like, so yes, we will use that font. So
that's really cool.
So, I have every once in a while I have a good marketing idea, but I just hate it, so I don't follow through. So, and Timothy, Sinzil is the best.
It is a very widely used fantasy. It's very readable. It's really easy to use. It looks great, but man, once you see it, you will never unsee it. It's going to be absolutely everywhere.
John is not a fan of strange fonts. Like I said, I would never do more than the back cover because, nobody wants to read an entire book in that font.
Yeah.
But.
Well, the font that we used for the actual title, you can see that it's kind of that weird vintagey kind of sci-fi. The S, what side am I on? The S is not straight up and down if you just type it. So we actually had to rotate it because I didn't like the way it looked. It goes sideways when it's typed. So that's maybe the most editing that we did for the title, but you just got to get lucky and find something that works. And I don't like having to be lucky.
Yeah.
So I think getting my own font sounds like a really cool idea.
for this last font, I did the Dwarven. I did it, and I showed my boss. I'm like, oh, what do you think about the font? He's Jewish. He's like, that S looks a little bit too much like a swastika for my liking. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I'll have her change it.
Yeah,
I'm
point
like,
made. That's
valid
a
point.
reasonable request. Yeah.
Thank you for saying that. I will change it.
Yeah. Thank you for telling me before it goes out to publication and somebody else says it.
Yeah. So, yeah, but so it's always good to have more eyes on it, get more opinions.
Yeah.
So, let's see. So after this series, what's going to come out next for you? Is it going to be the fantasy series, the other urban fantasy? I mean, you have 10 other books to choose from, which I still am gobsmacked by this. I'm very jealous.
It's going to be a new one because I've had a science fiction burning a hole in the back of my brain for over a year. And science fiction is actually my true love. If I have a choice to watch any kind of media, it's probably going to be science fiction. I discovered the Murderbot books over the last year. Reminded me why I love to read sci-fi again. Just the most hilarious books. So this will be my first sci-fi. So I'm a little scared of it because I'm afraid of like, okay, how do I handle the technology? How do I do that? But I actually went, the big convention that we did early this year, the first big one we did this year was Comicpalooza here in Houston, which is pretty sizable convention. And they have a really strong literature track. They always bring in authors. This year they had Jim Butcher and they also had Martha Wells, who writes Murderbot.
Right.
I actually got to ask her that question. I said, okay, you've written fantasy and you've written science fiction. What do you think is the challenge of a fantasy writer going to science fiction? And she looked at me and she said, I don't really think there's a difference. Needless to say, I was like, oh my God. So yeah, we're gonna do my best. See what happens.
The good news is if you do sci-fi, the space bow, the SPFNO equivalent, I think they had 241 people last year. They said they'd take up to 300, but they didn't fill up all 300 spots. So, and they actually took people who were in the previous year. If you didn't make it to the semifinals, you could resubmit your book. So if you have sci-fi, you should, now having said that, next year it's going to blow up and it's going to be,
Space knows. We're going to space knows.
But so yeah, you should most likely be able to get in. I'm going to put this one in and see how many days it lasts before it gets kicked out. But hey, you know what?
Hey, if you do not try, you can never win.
Yep. And I don't really care if I win. Well, I mean, Spaceboat. Have you seen what the winners get? They get like a custom-made blaster by somebody out in Hollywood, makes, and it's each year it's different. And I'm like,
that would be so cool. That's the trophy?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I want that. I really want that. I'm like, I'm not going to get it ever, but I want it.
And like you could have a Publishers Marketplace mug with your, hey, this is the deal announcement, or you could have a custom-made blaster.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. Let's go.
If you go to the self-published science fiction competition, if you go to their website, the first 2 years, you can see the blasters, what went to the winners.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, wait, they're vastly different. Is this a different one every year? Is it custom made? I'm like,
if it was custom, I would die. Oh man.
So 12 is saying,
start writing now.
Blow me off. You say you made me wait a day. That's it. I'm done. I got to start writing.
Like I got to finish the edits for book 3 first. I just got to finish these edits.
And just don't be in this year's Spacebow because my book will be in there. That way, I can root for you next year. We can both have our own custom blasters, and we can come
tag
back.
Team.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get upstairs after we get off the phone, and she's gonna be like, "Let's go."
So, and Spacebow is August is typically when they open it up. So,
Okay.
So that's why I had to get this published July 26th. I was like, okay, just to make sure I don't, because they don't update their website, but once in a blue moon. So I was like, okay, end of July, just to make sure.
That's going to fit my normal timeline perfect because I usually I start writing in November for Nano. I generally finish a book by either January or February. So it takes me about 4 months to write a book as long as I can stay focused. Oh my God. Get off my computer. But yeah, that would mean I would have time to do edits, get a cover, get everything published by August. I think we can make it. Let's do it.
I think I would, just to be safe, I think I'd get the cover like in like February, like, okay, this is what I want, and I need it by June. That way, if it comes in July, you're still good.
Yes. I got a tight timeline. I got to win this blaster.
So if you write sci-fi, are you going to be hard sci-fi, soft sci-fi? What, because you can do space opera, you can do space fantasy, or sci fantasy.
So the story that's in my head is kind of a grungy story. And so it's going to be not so much of the science fantasy, but it's in the term of hard sci-fi without the focus on the tech, because that's where I get bored. My favorite science fiction writer of all time is David Weber. I grew up on the Honor Harrington books, and as much as I love everything he writes, because I've read much more than just the Honor Harrington books, once you get into the space battles, especially when he writes with Steve White, man, they can put me to sleep. They get in the real technical details. I'm like, okay, guys, this is what's happening to the characters? Where are the characters? Or if it's Honor Harrington, where is the cat? Where is Nimitz? I need to know if he's okay.
Nimitz the cat?
So in that world,
Nice.
There's a species of cat that bonds, not telepathically, but maybe empathetically with humans. And the main character has a cat that rides around on her shoulder, and she's a space captain.
Okay, I have a problem with that. Cats have empathy? Really?
It's an alien species, yes.
Okay, so that makes sense then.
Yes, they're an alien species, and he has his own little emergency like evac pod on the ship, and eventually, like way later in the series, he gets a spacesuit of his own so that he doesn't have to be stuck in her quarters when they're in battle stations, and I need to know if Nimitz is okay. This is very important to me.
So when I wrote my book, I was like, because it's like 2250 in the, so not that far in the future. I was like, do they have pets? I'm like, how would they get dogs and cats to Mars? And if they're in 0G, what kind of trouble, I'm like, you know what? No, they're not going to have dogs or cats. And that kills me. I'm like, no dogs. I'm never living there.
Yeah. This is unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to talk to Elon and say, if you want me to go to your colony,
figure it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm like, I was like, would they have spacesuits? I'm like, oh, this is just a pain. And I was like, so fine. Yeah. So they have, the synthetic beef and chicken they grow in test tubes and petri dishes. And I'm like, no animals.
No animals. Yeah. I think it's actually really funny that most science fiction, you don't see any pets at all. It's just not even mentioned. And I think people assume that it would be impossible. And I think they dramatically underestimate the pet lovers, because it's going to happen.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
EL has dogs and wolves on Mars.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
So, and
it's gonna
EL,
happen.
I know EL gets a kick. This is my other favorite book for the year. EL's.
Very nice.
Heirs of Flawed Creation. Near future androids have become sentient. There have been a couple of human android wars, and all the short stories there are told from the android's point of view. And I just was not expecting anything. And I mean, to me, that's why I love indie, because it just surprises me. I'm like, where else would I find this except for in the warped mind of EL?
But short stories.
Yeah, it's collection. And I told him, I was like, these two short stories, you have to make them novels. I have to know what else happens, because the story does not end here. Get to it. Chop, chop. And
all right, I'm going to put it on my list, and then we're going to gang up on him. Sorry, EL.
Okay.
Get ready. We're coming.
Well, he, like you, has written God knows how many different things, because now he's put out Heirs of Flawed Creation. He just put out another one, Stories of Near Earth. He put out To Catch a Witch, which is fantasy, which I read and I really liked, even though he didn't take all of my tips. and I'm waiting for people to tell him that potatoes were not native to Europe in the medieval ages, and then I will be vindicated. But other than that, it's a great story. Um, so, so you said your next book is coming out in December, right?
Yes, book two comes out in December. I think I'm currently aiming for like the 10th or something like that. Just really depends on how I nail everything down. It is in final detail edits, which means my wife has it. She's supposed to be reading and nitpicking it to the absolute tiniest detail. It has already been through professional edit, so
it's
ready to go.
Is your wife 12 Ghosts?
No, I don't think she's on. I don't know if she's on.
I was going to say,
she'll be watching.
She's not editing. She's doing other things.
What's 12? Cut it out. There she is. She's lurking, is what she is.
There you go.
Yes. So she's the most detail oriented out of us. Thank goodness. Yeah.
So she's sitting beside 12 Ghosts.
They're both lurking. Excellent.
Nice. And then the third book will come out when?
Summer of next year.
And then you'll have the prequel.
Yes, and the prequel may take a while because I was not very happy with where I left it when I hit 50,000 words. Mm-hmm. So, but I don't hate it, but I think part of my problem was in order to get it in the right time period, that book is like the actual time of the book is the 70s. And I think I was trying too hard to lean into the 70s for that.
Oh,
and I basically
very forgettable.
I disconnected myself from the story. So I need to go back, pull back from that, and focus more on the weirdness of it because it is a weird book. And maybe it'll be a little bit better.
So after the trilogy's written and the prequel, are you going to do a box set, special edition box set for all your books?
I don't know if I'll do a box set, but I do want to do an omnibus. Listening to all these other like epic fantasy authors who have like these 1,000,000-page books, my books are not that long. The first book is 100,000 words, second is 150, third one is 100,000 words. And I think you could put all three of them in a book together and it would look really cool. So that's the end game. But the prequel can stay off by itself.
See, but if you do a box set, then you can get new, fresh art, which, is like every author's weakness.
Yes.
And then you can have your custom font.
I could do it like all across. I could have the quotes across the side of the box. It'd be really cool.
And you could spend a lot of money on, extraneous stuff that has nothing to do with the story and, be like, most authors.
Yes. I'd really like to do a Kickstarter for something like that eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm a little terrified of Kickstarter right now.
Oh, so I did a Kickstarter, but I absolutely hate marketing and I don't like being in the spotlight. So I am the poster child for who should not do Kickstarter. It got fulfilled because
congratulations.
Author Mike Woolman contributed the last $300 to make it fulfilled, but it got fulfilled. So I don't know if I'll do that again because you were saying off camera that you watched Brendan Noble's interview from 2 nights ago. And that man, I'm like, I wish I had your confidence to just sit there and yes, I will talk. And I'm like, if you ask me about my book, I'm like, it's all right. That's my ringing endorsement for my own work is I kind of shrug and it's not terrible. So I am not the one to market my books.
When I'm at conventions and the way our booth is set up, we have all this, we do anime conventions for the most part. So we have all these like cool keychains and neat stickers and things like that. But right next to where I sit, and I'm the face of the booth, usually I'm the one that talks to everybody, is a big banner of my book. And it's got the book on a little stand right there. And people will come up and ask me and they'll be like, what's it about? And I have to pop off that real quick pitch. And I've learned that it doesn't have to be good. It just has to be like, oh yeah, that's what happens when the magic gets torn down. And then this guy has to help the other guy to go fix it. And they're like, huh, okay. But it helps a lot to have two people sitting behind you saying, it's really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that you have to be, you can't be like, well, this guy goes and he does some, if you're not excited, then you're not going to sell it. So you gotta be excited, and I think that's more important than the words you choose is the way in which you deliver them.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Oh God, 12. The last con we went to, we just got out of Delta H Con 2 weeks ago, which is our home con. It's a small con, but it's a really comfortable convention for us. I had somebody ask me, so where does it go thematically? That was the worst question. I completely lost my mind because I had given my little brief pitch, right? And
yep.
then she's asking me, where does it go thematically? And I started just rambling. And they had my girls had to pop up behind me and be like, it's found family. It's found. And I was like, okay, that's not what I would describe it as, but I will take it.
Yeah, Motley Crue, found family, characters first. These are the buzzwords.
Yes, yes. I completely fell apart. So I have to learn to be a little bit better about the weird questions on the fly.
I had one person, she's like, is there at least a little bit of romance in your book? I'm like, yes, there is. And I'm thinking, of course, that interest dies in chapter 22, but I'm not going to tell you that.
You're that guy.
I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to get a bad review, but I sold the book.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. A lot of people try to, we got kitchen cabinets. Yeah. A lot of people try to, like label a lot of books as romantasy now. And
yeah.
like, yes, there is a relationship that's very important to this series. The two main characters, that's eventually, their relationship is what drives the series. But romantasy has its own tropes. It has very specific requirements. I'll make none of that.
So tell me about your high fantasy because I'm curious.
So I'm really interested to see what I'll do with that one eventually because they always say when you're querying, you could say it's young adult with crossover potential or adult with crossover potential, and there's nothing in that series that wouldn't let it be. So I will see how that goes, but it's the story of a young man who is basically an elf. It's my version of elves, who is pretty sure something has happened to the gods. And he's really determined to prove it. But the one god that is still running around is making his life really difficult. And if he speaks out, if he makes too much noise about it or tries to go on an epic quest and tell everybody about it, he's going to get thrown in prison. So he has to kind of sneak out and go. He ends up in the company of a like mercenary type guy who's helping him go and try to find the gods. And he ends up biting off a lot more than he can chew and getting dragged way deeper into the conflicts between the gods than he thought he would. So
Nice.
it's a great. I love the story. The first book I think is really solid. I could probably query that book right now if I felt better about, because it's also a trilogy. I didn't do that on purpose, but it's also a trilogy. If I felt better about where the next two books were, I could probably query that one.
That's fine because the book I'm writing now is actually I have a dwarven paladin who becomes a paladin of one of the gods, but she doesn't know which one. And so book one is trying to discover who exactly have I been pledged to, because the traveler god is like, yes, you're a paladin, you've pledged to your god. And she's like, who? Is it you? Oh no, not me. Who is it?
Not.
It's like, well, you need to, you have labors you must do to, fulfill this mantle. He's like, okay, but who's the god? He's like, the god will reveal himself when he is ready. And she's like, okay, but who's the god?
Yeah, like, can we not just run around in circles on this? I'm going back to David Weber again. He has a book called The War God Zone.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably my favorite fantasy book of all time. It is kind of classic high fantasy, and his main character is like a barbarian.
Nice.
And that barbarian gets chosen as a champion for this god, but his people, his tribe, have been outcast from the gods for centuries. And he's like, no, I ain't doing nothing for you. What do you want with me? Why are you bothering me? Leave me alone, you know? And that makes for a really hilarious dynamic.
Yeah. So my first series, the guy, the druid, a spin on the chosen one is because I'm like, yeah, he's really powerful, but he's dumb. He's really dumb.
Excellent. That is great characters right
He
there.
means well, but he is just so awkward. Yeah. So
yeah. You shouldn't take your characters too seriously. Like, let them be stupid sometimes. Let them, it's more fun when they have to figure stuff out.
have you been there before and you're like, oh my God, if my characters actually existed, they would so tear me to pieces if they ever encountered me?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have to yell at the voices in your head to shut up. That was just a hypothetical. Yeah.
Yes. No, don't take that seriously. Don't take that seriously.
So I haven't done this before, so we'll try it.
Here we go.
What are some other books by other authors that people should be reading that they're not reading enough of?
Oh, man.
Yeah, I know. It didn't give you any chance to prepare.
This is a hard question for me because I stopped reading for several years. I'm a CPA. I'm a licensed public accountant.
Yep,
and
that's on my note next.
Okay. And I have my master's degree in accountancy as well. And so during that time period where I was getting through school and studying, I stopped reading. My social life and like entertainment just disappeared. And I found that you had to retrain yourself to read. So that makes things really difficult when you're having to kind of find yourself. So I will say, if you like science fiction and you haven't read the Murderbot Diaries, I read the first book, and unfortunately they're novellas. And I say unfortunately because, my God, I wanted more. It was really unfair that they quit. So I really like that. I'll say the last book that I read, I have it sitting right here, is Under the Dragon Moon by, I'm going to butcher this, I don't know how they pronounce it, by Mouse, M-A-W-C-E, Hanlon.
Okay.
It's I bought it from their shop, and so I got the fancy version that has all the cool stickers and prints and things and extras.
Nice.
I thought it was a really good book. It was a kind of cozy fantasy. I thought it was great. So would recommend that, but yeah, my go-to for you should be reading this is Murderbot.
Okay. So sorry, Herman, but Murderbot.
Murderbot. And Herman's book. Everybody go read Herman. And EL's book. And Mike's book.
So I have to tell you, I wrote down here because before we start doing this show, I would have assured anyone that no accountant writes fantasy or science fiction. They have no imagination. You are the fourth accountant that we have interviewed. So I guess you just all that imagination gets pent up at work. You don't get to really use it, and you come home and voila.
So I like to remind people that John Grisham started life as an accountant. Before he became a lawyer, he was an accountant. And I think it's because we have very organized brains.
Yeah.
And so, which is funny because, God, don't look at my house. But my desk, do not. You should have seen the work I had to do to get this shelf looking decent for this. But we say, okay, well, here's the path I want to take, and we can figure out the way to get to that path pretty easy. So I think maybe that's the reason that accountants are good at writing, but also maybe like to write. But four is a lot. Wow.
So if Ro was here, he would just about explode with this question. But do you find yourself organizing your story, the plot, in Excel?
Waiting for the roast from my family. Look. Yes, Timothy's got it. But I'm waiting for the roast from my family because I will do anything. And I can hear them laughing. I am wearing noise-canceling headphones, and I can hear them dying upstairs. Yeah, I will do anything in Microsoft Excel. And yeah.
I can hear them now too.
Yeah. And not only that, my company got bought out in the last year, and I've moved into a new position, and now I'm learning Power BI. Now I'm going to be worse. You thought I was insufferable before. Now I can create databases with those Excel sheets. So, yeah, it's gonna be
I'm a
great.
big fan of Excel, so I'm with you. I'm not an accountant. I'm a chemist by training, but I have some of those tendencies there. So
Yeah, life's better with spreadsheets. Yes, we do solve plot holes with VLOOKUPs.
ugh. Yep, and I'm trying to think if Ro was here, there's no way we would have gone down this avenue of conversation.
He does usually get us back on path.
So, what is next for Christina Glover?
The next is getting the rest of the series out, and I'm very excited to be done with it because I've been writing in this world. The Connections is the name of the series. I've been writing in the Connections world for several years, since 2019. I am ready to do something else.
I bet.
So, yeah, very excited to move on to science fiction.
So, are you going to do NaNoWriMo this year?
Yes, that's my main goal. I'm trying to finish my edits for book 3 right now. Hopefully by the end of July, we'll see if I make it. So I have time to plot for Nano.
And Nano, is that going to be your sci-fi book then, or?
Yes. Very
And
excited about it.
So the other 7 books that you have are just going to get brushed to the side, and you're going to do. Okay.
Yeah, they can wait.
I mean, that is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
I always tell people the one piece of advice I would give new writers that I never took myself, and if I could do it all over again, I still would never take it, although I should, is that don't be in a hurry to publish, because once you've published, you're on the clock, and people are, like, I want the next one. I want the next,
Yes.
And I'm like, when you're just writing, you're like, oh, this is going to win a Pulitzer. There's not a category for that, but they'll make a special one. Which one is this?
This is Stella. She's one of the babies, one of the twins. She's very sleepy. She just woke up from her nap. But okay, our cat count is 2. Yeah, I think you're right, because it's also a marketing thing, isn't it? Once you start, if you want any traction, you have to keep pushing marketing materials, pushing, your presence online, getting more stuff out, and that's how you build momentum. That's exhausting.
I don't know. Are you active on Twitter?
Yes, Twitter is my main social media.
So you've seen the break-ins? I mean, there's no way you could not have seen the break-ins if you're on Twitter, even casually. I mean, they are just all over. I mean, that they are truly amazing. And they're like, okay, my book came out. It's 3 months later. Here's a novella. They're like, I'm not going to let you forget that I exist.
Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Do they have day jobs?
I don't know.
How do they do it? I don't know how they do it.
I'm really impressed, and I applaud them and their effort. It's great, and I kind of hate them secretly too.
Yeah.
So, but they. If I just watched them, the interview we did with Scott Palmer.
Mm-hmm.
He so many things that he said. He's like, you know what? This is what Ryan Cahill did. This is the group that he used to go on book tour. I did this. I followed him. I did, I mean, just going down the line. I'm like, this is like a masterclass in marketing.
Yeah.
And he's telling a couple 50-year-old guys who will probably not listen to him because we're old and we don't want to. But, I'm like, this is so helpful.
Yeah. I'm really seriously considering doing a book tour. I'm looking into that because I know that there's a million bloggers and reviewers out there, but finding them is surprisingly hard. It takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of footwork, and you just hope the algorithm shows you really cool stuff. And I've been lucky to find some really amazing reviewers, but geez.
That's not your cats laughing at you, or is it about Excel?
Yeah, it is for sure. I'm telling you, I knew when you asked that question, I was like, oh, I'm going to hear about this for 3 weeks.
Well, you're literally the 4th one that I know accountant now who's writing fantasy or sci-fi. So
we need a guild. We need an accountants for SFF guild.
So when I talked to Philip Martin was the first one. I was like, oh, well, maybe we'll do like an interview like in February. He's like, no, I can't do anything before April.
Oh,
he's
no,
like,
absolutely not.
He's like, no, I can't publish books, between January and April, and he's like, that's a dead period. I'm like,
yes. Yeah. I was going to say it because really it's the end of January. That's when closing really hits. But yeah, that time period, no, don't even talk to an accountant. And I'm lucky because when I changed positions, I'm not actually doing accountant work anymore, which is very strange because I did it. I was my company's controller for 7 years, and I had been in accounting for quite a few years before that. I've been in my company for 19 years. And going from that much accounting to, okay, now I'm just going to work with data.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to do with myself. I don't have to do journal entries. I don't have to worry about clothes. I can go on vacation whenever I want. I don't know how to handle this. This is too much power. That's just what it is.
You're going to be lurking like, does anybody need help with the books? Come February.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
don't you want to go for a long lunch? I'll sit down. I'll do that.
Yeah. I just need to get this out of my system. I need to see something balanced. Yeah.
So I did want to ask one question before we got on, and I completely didn't ask you ever, even beforehand. But for the magic in your system, did you develop that first, or did you start writing and it sort of developed organically, or did you say these are the rules that I have to have before I start, or how did that come to be?
I rarely have that much pre-planning. When something like magic systems are things that I've never really plotted out, they just came to me and they just appeared in the story, and the story built around them. The magic system in the switchboard, I'm very proud of it because I think it's quite unusual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a percentage-based system. A mage says, I need to cast a spell that is worth 10% of a mage's capacity to use magic, and I have to pay for it in memory. And that's what the magic system is. And I didn't set out to make it really cool, but it turned out really cool. And it bites you in the butt though later, because if you don't plan it out, suddenly it's like, okay, well, but wait a minute, didn't that guy just do like 50%? Isn't that half of his life force? No. It's half of what he's capable of. It's not his life force. He can do about this much. Okay, but what happens when you do too much? What are the flaws in the system? And I've had to rewrite some chapters. Yeah.
So before we go, do you want to enter the Bald Dome and have a chance
I would love to enter the Bald Dome.
And you have a chance to drink the fizzy potion if need be?
The famous fizzy potion
that no one ever does. I'm not bitter, not at all.
Bro's gonna be mad. Bro's gonna be mad that he missed this. This is gonna be great.
Okay, I will roll the dice. Okay, so who is taking part in this? Which character?
So I have been thinking about this for 2 weeks. And under normal circumstances, I would say Henley, but I think Henley is way too practical and safe, and I'm bringing Kittinger because he's chaos.
Alrighty.
I don't think you've had enough fun in the Bald Dome lately, so I
like it. So the Bald Dome, it takes place on a floating island suspended in the sky.
Okay.
You have a fizzy green potion of unknown potency. And now you get your choice. Do you want a regular item or do you want an actual weapon?
Okay, so before we get started, I do have a question. I know you've said in the past that the Bald Dome must obey the rules, the magic system of your world, right?
Of your world, yes.
My question is it in my world? Because that's very important.
So if it just obeys the rules of your world, that's different?
Yes.
Okay, it's in your world. It's a floating city in the sky.
That's actually perfect because in the between we have zero gravity.
Awesome.
So it's not forced zero gravity, but you can't jump from the ground into zero gravity. That's the way it works.
So would you like a regular item and face a regular animal, or would you like an actual weapon and face a fantasy creature?
We're going to go with the regular animal because Kit he's cool, but he's not a fighter.
Okay, so you have number 3. You have a 2-person saw.
Oh my God.
Had you chosen the weapon, you would have got a halberd, which is an axe on a pole.
Yeah.
But Don't
Which
have
would have
that.
been probably easier to use than a two-person saw. Okay.
In the halberd, you would have been fighting a pack of werewolves, but as it is, you are fighting number 17. Let me scroll. Oh, you're fighting a coyote.
Also, I take it back. A halberd versus a pack of werewolves would not have been useful in any way, shape, or form.
So you have your two-person saw. There is a rabid coyote that's coming at you. You have your green fizzy potion. You're on an island in the sky in your world. What happens?
He's gonna drop the saw because that thing's probably taller than he is. Like what? He's useless. Is gonna slow him down against the coyote. Oh, stand. Hang on. I was waiting until after the ball dome, but cat number 3. This is the old man. This is Prince Jonathan Ashford himself.
Nice.
So he wanted to leave. Okay. So that said, Kid
Mhm.
doesn't know how to fight a coyote. He could try to run from it for a while, but eventually that thing's gonna get him. So he's gonna cut his losses and he's gonna drink the potion.
Yes, I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Has anyone ever drank the potion?
No one has,
Nobody's ever.
because
People don't know how to have fun anymore.
they're like, I don't know what it is. Why would I? Okay, so is he going to drink it or is he going to throw it at the coyote? Because if he
Oh, so
throws
he
it at
has
the
a
coyote,
choice.
it's a guaranteed hit if you throw it. So whatever he chooses, it will take effect on one of the two.
Well, I will meta game a little bit and say that the previous game, it was a potion of invulnerability. I'm not really interested in throwing that at the coyote. So he's going to drink the potion. I'm with
Okay.
EL. We're going to drink the potion.
Okay, so you drink the potion, and it is a potion of invulnerability. So
Oh, thank God.
you are immune from physical or magical harm for a period of 5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right, let's see. What's he going to do? What's he going to do?
And another one that just doesn't come up. But
12s. I don't know what that was, but I'm terrified. I'm going to say he's just going to run straight at the coyote. He's just going to run at him.
there you go.
He's going to go for a headlock. He's just going to see if he can knock the coyote out.
There
Let's
you go. And I rolled a natural 1.
Oh my God.
Although you're telling the story, not me.
All
So
the side of the island? That definitely sounds like they both, in a tangle of claws and teeth and long hair, because Kid has really long hair, just like limbs flailing. They just fell off the side of the island.
okay.
That's a popcorn bucket 12. Yeah. Yeah.
You know what? I like that. The first time we did this, the person who Rob Lee's a wonderful person, but he told us that his character was going to defeat a griffin when he had a club. And I'm like, okay.
Okay, sure.
Really like our character. I don't like those odds. But you know what? He's the one telling the story. So
I don't know what would have happened if I rolled anything but a 1. But the 1, I mean, like, you can't do anything but just enjoy the chaotic, terrible things that happen next. That's the only way.
Yeah, that's the one Brandon Sanderson quote that I heard that I was like, you know what? Yes, Brandon. I don't like a lot of his stuff is just okay.
Yeah.
But he's like, characters are more interesting when you give them weaknesses than when you give them strengths.
Yes.
Because that's when all hell can break loose.
Yes. I need a character that can do something stupid and that will accidentally fling themselves off the side of a floating island wrapped up with a coyote. That's hey, 12s, get to drawing. That's your job now. Somebody draw me that.
Nice. See, now I'm jealous. You can be, hey, I need this drawn.
Oh, it doesn't work. It just I could say it all day long. That doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Well, see, if you make a spreadsheet and you log these requests and you print it out and put it on the refrigerator, I mean, it's like marketing. They'll see it over and over again, and sooner or later it'll take effect and they'll do it.
You're giving them ammunition. You're giving them ammunition. Oh my God. Wow. Looney Tunes style. Yes, exactly. Looney Tunes style. Full blown. Okay. 12 is open to bribery. Let's go.
The Excel spreadsheet on the refrigerator is free. I would do that first.
Yes. Excellent. Yeah. Great plan.
I
What are
should
you
tell you
throwing at
that.
me? Okay. Yes, my wife just came down and threw this at me. This is the keychain that 12's made.
Nice.
Yeah, which she didn't actually have to throw it at me because I literally have one attached to my pen case. So she could have just, told me to do that. But yeah, 12's is our principal artist for the shop. So
I should probably warn you. I used to work with two women in the lab, and I used to always tell them, just because I'm answering your question does not mean I'm trying to help. So I'd like to at least
yeah,
say that once, so you know. But
yes.
yeah, I would try the Excel spreadsheet on the refrigerator because what could possibly happen there. It's not like they can make fun of you for that.
I'm doing an 11 by 17. I'm going to plaster the whole front of the fridge with that.
Nice. I like it.
Yes. Great plan.
So I should show you when I took my nephew years ago to New York City for 5 days, and I planned it starting at 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. in 15-minute increments, all 5 days. This is a thing of beauty. It's in Excel. It is a thing of beauty. It's color coded. Are we eating? Are we going to, what are we doing? It is a thing of beauty. And the one woman, I was there and she's like, but you don't have any time to be spontaneous. Everything is planned. I'm like, oh no, I do. Look here on this day, I have 1 hour. It says spontaneous time. And she's like, that's not spontaneous if you plan it. And
I'm pretty sure they have diagnosis for people to do stuff like that.
And I mean, she just, every time she's like, did you get rid of that and have more spontaneous? I'm like, I have spontaneous time planned. And she's like, she just could not handle it. I'm like, well, you're not going on this vacation. So
I will confess that I did that at Disney. Our first big trip to Disney, I did that and had a nervous breakdown by the end of the trip. So learned my lesson the hard way.
Oh, it was glorious. I told my nephew the more important things were like moved to earlier in the day because if I got tired and we didn't do the stuff late, I was like, you know what, who cares? That's like, optional. And the one thing I was like, okay, we're going to the Staten Island ferry. He's like, why? I'm like, because it's free.
Because it's free.
I'm like, and you get a great view of the Statue of Liberty. And I was too late getting our tickets to the island, so we couldn't go. Although I went to, I was like, so we're going to do this and get good pictures. We're going to go at sunset and get a picture of and that's one of the best pictures I got. And I'm like, that's the thing, trick. If you're going to New York City, Staten Island is the ferry is free.
And go at sunset.
So yeah, highly recommend it. Or right before, and then you can take the one back, and you book in the sunset. Yeah. That is the thing to do. And most of the people there are New Yorkers, and they're like, yeah, been there, done that. So they don't care. So you can get right up on, you can get the perfect spot to take the picture.
Yeah, they're not standing in the way. They're not all trying to take the same picture. Yeah.
Right. They'll just laugh at you for being a tourist, but honestly, do you care?
Yeah.
I'm like, I am. So yeah.
Look at my camera. Look at my water bottle. Look at my backpack. Yeah.
So, oh well. Is there any question that I should have asked you that I did not?
No, I think you did a pretty good job.
So
we pretty much nailed it. Yeah.
I know that your Word document is open for the space novel that you're going to write. So I know what you're doing tonight, and you're not going to edit your book. You're going to start writing a new one.
If these losers think we are not playing video games when I get upstairs, I'm going to be upset.
Well, Christina, thank you for coming on. You are welcome back anytime.
Thank you. It's been absolutely lovely. Tell Ro I missed him.
I won't do that. But he'll probably watch it. He always gets on me because he watches the ones that he misses, and he asks me if I ever watch them. I'm like, no, I hate my voice. I'm never going to watch any of this. So, but I guess we have reached the end, and it's time to wave awkwardly.
It is.
Goodbye, okay,
everyone.
So
Thank you so much.
Stream sometime.